Roy, are you there?
Hey, Warren.
Hi.
How's it going?
Welcome. So what the heck are we doing? Oh my goodness. Thanks for joining in on this new journey.
Welcome, everybody. Hoping that you're out there. And if you're not there yet, you'll be joining us shortly. We are doing the Space 1999 podcast. And we are calling it this episode, which is the pilot podcast. We thought this would be a way to just kind of like pretty much break the ice, so to speak, before we break away. And yeah, we're getting our sea legs with this. So anyway,
we're getting our feet wet. Exactly.
This is like Warren was originally considering this episode is 0-0. So anyway, all tonight we're doing is, I shouldn't say just all, but what we are doing is we're acclimating everybody, we're welcoming everyone out there, and we are just getting our feet wet and to give you an idea of what we are going to be doing in the weeks to come. And yeah, it's the 50th anniversary celebration. It is, so many people will say, really, 50 years? It's 2024 and it's only 49 years. But if you're going by production order, Space 1999 premiered in 1973 and went until 1976 as far as production, was shown from 75 until 77 as far as the original two series being shown. So we are in that realm of the 50th anniversary, and we are going to be encroaching upon it specifically next year in September, where that's where it all began and all started. So
wait, so, Roy, you mean it's not the 50th anniversary? I can't do this. I feel like I was like bait and switched. So yeah. It's only 49 years.
40. How the heck is this show 49 years old?
I know. Yeah, it's something else.
I mean, that's crazy. I mean, thinking about it, and the idea of doing this podcast was, I mean, you've been talking about this for a long time. I was kind of, and then we stopped talking about it, and then I was thinking about it and just the fun that it would be. And now on Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner, I've actually done a few episodes where I've touched upon it, and that's my cheap plug right there if you didn't catch that, by the way. And talked about some of the episodes. But I mean, with this, doing this in a podcast format, we're doing this as a live presentation tonight. We're going to be doing a live presentation when we premiere. And when is that, Warren? We're going to be doing that on Sunday?
Yeah, we're going to launch with Breakaway on Sunday, October 27th. So we have a couple of guests that we're going to have on at that time. Thanks, Roy, for all that. But yeah, the idea with this is to run weekly broadcasts. The first one will be live. After that, they'll drop once a week. They'll be likely pre-recorded. It's just a little easier for Roy and I to coordinate things. But the idea is we're going to run through all 48 episodes, maybe touch on a couple of little side projects leading into, of course, the Los Angeles event that we announced last month in London. So we're going to sort of be promoting the convention the entire time via this new platform and YouTube channel. We do encourage everybody to reach out and hit that subscribe button. We're doing really well already, considering we hadn't even had any broadcasts up, Roy. We were up over 30, 35 subscribers already just in the last couple of days. So that's awesome. I see the comments rolling in already. So I see Nancy from Calgary out there, as well as Martin. And there we go. And yeah, Roy and I have dual control. You know, when we've done the virtuals, we should have did this for that, Roy. We can both watch the comments, bring them up as needed, right? And it's really, folks, we are sort of testing things here, a few new things. And of course, the new YouTube channel, we want to make sure that this is going to stream properly to there. We also have, and additional plug for Roy's Tie-Dye, we are streaming to Roy's page as well. So we've sort of linked everything together. We want to get this out there to as many people as we can, and as much viewership and awareness about not only this, but the big convention happening next year.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things going on all at once, and we're going to try to work out all the kinks and the bugs. Like right now, I'm showing that it's not even. Oh, there it goes. I think it is showing on the show's page now. At first, I didn't see it, but nope.
Yeah.
So bear with me one second, Warren. And
Yeah,
again,
no, 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 it's okay, and I'm curious as well, and so while you're doing some research there, I'll just say to everybody commenting, do us a favor tonight, and if you could comment and tell us where you're viewing, whether it
yes,
be YouTube, which YouTube channel, because we got two linked, whether it's Facebook, which Facebook channel, because we got the Space 1999 50th event page as well as Roy's tie dye. So just let us. We just like to track what's working the best and making sure that this stream is going out to all those different avenues properly. So if you could comment, just tell us where you're watching and tuning in from as well.
very cool. Oh, and I see James is joining us. James, welcome. He said, so excited the con is returning to the West Coast. There we go.
Yeah, that was, sort of obviously last minute. London was amazing. Roy, I think everybody there unanimously had a wonderful time. The guests, the attendees, everybody involved. It was a lot of work behind the scenes for both you and I, and many, many others. Big shout out to all the volunteers, and including Art. Art just tuned in. Big, big help with planning and prep and running the registration table. Art's viewing on YouTube, wonderful. Thank you. And yeah, so I mean, going into next year, that was sort of a last minute thing, but we decided, hey, what the heck? We had sort of a small version of a 50th anniversary in Canada, then over to the UK, and the US definitely needs a convention of their own. I feel so that's where Los Angeles is going to tie in nicely.
Yeah, there's just going to be so much stuff going on over the course of the next year, and rightfully so. I mean, this is Space 1999. When you think about it, a show that was on for 2 seasons, and the impact that it made with so many folks, so many fans, whether you're, a hardcore fan or just a casual fan, the word fan just applies. And it's just amazing how this show has impacted so many people on different levels, allowed different relationships, friendships, marriages that took place. I got to give a shout out to Catherine Bujold out there. I mean, I in 1999 at the convention, if I remember correctly, I think that's where her and her husband got engaged. So, I mean, it's just different events taking place that are memorable, and yeah, it's pretty cool when you think about overall the impact. And one of the things that I think about too is like at the Breakaway convention in 1999, seeing Barry Morse for the first time. And I had heard the stories, and I've told this story before and I'll tell it again, but where he had his camera and folks were snapping their pictures of the actors and the production team, and then Barry was there with his camera and he's taking pictures of the fans that are there, just to see him and everybody. And it was, it's just a family type of atmosphere, so it's very, very warm and very encouraging.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, the long history of not only the show, but those fan gatherings and conventions going right back to 1978, and we've
Yeah.
been very, very fortunate as a community to see those progress. Not yearly or anything like that, but every few years there's one that comes along, and it's always exciting to reconnect with not only the celebrities but each other as well. It is very much like you said, Roy, about that family feeling of reconnecting and seeing each other at say at an annual holiday or whatnot. But yeah, it's and the memories it's forged. I mean, it goes without saying, and the boy, I mean, there was so much going on even before you and I sort of came on the scene. I mean, there's so many people to thank, and if I could, I mean, we're talking about all this, and we should really maybe just take a moment and acknowledge Rosie Badgett. And thank her for all of her contributions over the years. And of course, we were all very saddened to learn of Rosie's passing. The week leading into London, it was really remarkable, and it was almost it was such a surreal feeling because Rosie was the very first person that told me the legend of Margaret and how
Mhm.
Margaret sort of looked after everybody in the community. And if for anybody not in the know, Margaret is a reference to the actress Margaret Leighton, who appeared in Collision Course as Ara. And very early on in those 70s and 80s conventions, they were getting together and running down a list of potential guests to invite. And somebody had mentioned Margaret Leighton, and Rosie sort of said, actually, she said she's dead, Chuck. And I'm not sure which Chuck it was, but didn't realize that Margaret Leighton had passed away. And so ever since then, there's been an urban legend or a myth, if you will, that
Mm.
Margaret Leighton has been watching over all of us at all these events, and you'd see funny things happen, like the elevator door open, after we're all inside, and it's Margaret coming in, or an extra drink shows up on the waitress's a tray, right? That's for Margaret, right? So with Rosie's passing, I mean, I can't help but think that it was Rosie in London who was looking after us, Roy, on some level, and just looking after. There were so many things you and I know that could have gone wrong and could have gone south, but you know what? We pulled it off, and I think it was because of Margaret and Rosie.
Well said, Warren. Very well said. I mean, definitely the mysterious unknown force, so to
Yes.
speak. The other piece of all of that. So yeah, no, that yeah, no, I'm. It was just it was a tough time with all of that. It really really was. I mean, it hit home and hit hard with all of us, and yeah. Um, but on looking ahead, it's again those powerful moments, those relationships, those memories that just really help to drive the community in regards to everything. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, because life is really too short in the scheme of things. So it's just something that it's really important to remember. Um, Jenny is out there. Jenny is joining us from Australia, from the land of down under. Hey, Jenny. In fact, today is tomorrow where Jenny is at. Tomorrow is Thursday.
Tomorrow is yesterday.
For her, for us, right?
You bet. And Charles is out there too. Big hello and welcome to Charles. And Roy and I were talking about our Koenig jackets that we have. I know Charles, probably when you first got, I'm not sure what year it was. If it was 4 or 5 years ago, maybe it's 6 or 7 now. When you first got making them, you made me the first Koenig jacket, and you even embroidered my last name in the back of it. And I'll always remember that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Charles is joining us, I believe, from Florida, if I'm not mistaken. It's either Florida or Georgia, but I'm going to say Florida. And if you have not, a plug for Charles, his work is amazing. And now I think he has different color Koenig jackets, because here's another bit of trivia, right? From the second year, I think obviously there's the dark, it's the black command jacket. Then there's also like a navy blue, and then there's also like a light gray that you would.
It's I was gonna say, and you know what? It's funny, Roy, because you know what? Back in the day, you couldn't tell, but
Yeah,
with everything being in such high definition and,
yeah,
and and Blu-ray nowadays, you can pick up on those different colors. But I think Koenig actually had three different color jackets. You're
he
right.
did. Yeah, yeah. It's but some of them, like the blue, the dark blue, the navy blue, and the black one, kind of like blended back then.
Yeah, yeah. No,
And
that's funny.
yeah, yeah. I personally I like the lighter gray. That was like, it was almost like a charcoal. That was
Yeah,
kind of like my favorite.
yeah. It was probably closest to his what the color would have
Yes, yes,
been, right? And
exactly.
one of the critiques of year two was that they should have synced the color of the jacket with the sleeve color and the collar color. But we'll
Yeah.
get into all that during these episodes, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that's like a sample of what we're going to be talking about. So what the plan is to do each episode will be dealing with a specific, well, this episode, so to speak, will be a specific episode. And Warren and I were going back and forth trying to figure out what would be the best way as far as like doing these, as far as discussion. I was in favor of production order. Warren brought up a couple of good points too. It'd be kind of fun to do maybe the televised versions. Each area televised them differently. If you were in the New York area, Breakaway was the first episode back in the day, and then, which made sense, Dragon's Domain was the second, which really kind of makes sense as opposed to being second to last. But after going deliberating and everything, we decided to go with production order, just because it's a momentum that's being built, and characters are being developed, and so on. So pretty much that's what we kind of decided on. So let
Yeah,
us know your thoughts.
I think production order is the best way to go here, because there is a progression um, between the stories and characters as you go along, and you can see that. I mean, back in the day when we all saw them out of order. Um, you didn't pick up on certain things that the production order does provide, right? And even just within the first 4 or 5 episodes, even with the different opening title sequences, right? It's clear that they were earlier episodes,
Mhm.
and yeah, I think I'm of the opinion that we're most familiar with that as well from all the DVD releases now through the years, and I think even as we're just putting the word out there, looking for guests in the coming weeks, it's going to be easier for people to keep track of what's coming up down the road, things like that. So yeah, I think that makes the most sense. The other thing that we were debating back and forth is this is all very new, and this is still we're in the pilot phase. We're not even sure if we're going to get picked up by the networks yet, by the YouTube.
Yeah, well,
So
we're gonna syndicate ourselves. We're gonna bypass the networks.
we have to make sure to do a good job, Roy, and be at our best, and that's going to spin into the last half of the conversation tonight. We're going to actually interview each other. So, um,
There we
but
go.
we sort of came up with, as you can see, like in the watermark in the top corner here, right? We were originally going to be Space 1999, the podcast, and then and Catherine Bougeot again did these wonderful
Oh,
montages for us here a couple years back already when we were first talking about it. But we went through different iterations of this, and we wanted to present the idea that we're going through episode by episode. So we came up with literally that. We were going to call it Space 1999 episode by episode, the podcast, but it's getting pretty wordy at that point. And then I sort of said to Roy earlier today that Space 1999, the podcast, is almost like branding a T-shirt with Spaceballs, the T-shirt. Like everybody knows it's a podcast, right?
right.
So we decided to drop that, and then episode by episode, which is very clunky as well. We've sort of I've been working with Catherine Bougeot the last couple of days, and it just suddenly dawned on me. So she provided the graphics right away. So we're actually going to rebrand already, but we're fairly confident that this is going to be a good name moving forward once we launch the regular episodes. And here it is. We're simply going to be Space 1999. This episode.
It's cut and dry. I mean,
It,
we're right there.
That's it,
it
it
says it
makes
all.
so much, and it's instantly recognizable to Space 1999 fans. So that's where we're going. We're going to be this Space 19. Already changed the name on the YouTube page, and right now as we're speaking about it, I'm going to change the watermark up in the top corner, and
Yep.
there we go.
Yeah.
We're
No.
officially
Perfect.
rebranded. So we'll be Space 1999 this episode.
I just want to give a few shout outs to some folks that are joining us too that we haven't mentioned. So I see Rick DiPaula is out there and he's joining us from Brazil. Welcome, Rick. Thank
Hi,
you for
Rick.
being out there. Colleen Bement is out there. Colleen, you're in Colorado, right? I think you're in Colorado.
Yeah.
And good to see you, Colleen. And also Tim Ellis is out there, our friends from Giant Leap, and also I don't see. I was going to say Zyka, Zyka Toys. Got to give another plug, man. In regards to what Tim Ellis has done and Craig Owen have done with from Zyka Toys and Great Leap, amazing. If you have not seen, and again, if you have not seen the Kickstarter that's going on in regards to that, in regards to the Eagle 1976. Check it out. It is amazing. And it's hit the 100,000 mark. And I believe there's 26 days left right now. And the momentum is going. So if you haven't visited, definitely visit it. It's pretty exciting. So Eagle 1976. 1976 was a big year as far as Mattel. And if you haven't seen the videos, and actually, you can go onto the show's page. Tim and Craig were on last Thursday with me, and just going and answering all questions in regards to the upgrades. And then also you can get the standard Eagle, which has all the upgrades, or you could also get the I'll say the retro Eagle as well too. And there's a lot more stuff too with that too, and the different perks. And all of your questions will be answered. So they've really put a lot of effort into it. So just so you know.
For sure, and Tim, we'd love to get you on here in the next few weeks as well. We got less than a month left in that Kickstarter, but we want to try and Roy and I want to try and back you as much as we can here. So any way we can help and get you out there on a new platform again, a new channel is I think all for the best.
Yeah, very, very exciting. And
For sure.
thank you for the well wishes too, Tim, in regards to
Yeah.
the podcast. Much
Yeah,
appreciated.
absolutely. And more people tuning in here. So I think this is Dennis from Canada, Dennis Chevalier, who's a
Yes.
regular on your show, Roy. Yeah, yeah. And my sister Heather's there saying hi.
Hey, Heather. Hey, everyone. Randy Lee's actually out there too. He's joining us from Wisconsin.
And Randy Lee. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yep.
thank you very much, everybody, for the support. And yeah, I think this is going to be fun and exciting. I think we've. Oh, there's one thing we should, and we mentioned Catherine a couple times, and we'll give everybody just a quick sneak peek of what we've come up with for an intro, if that's okay, Roy.
Yeah, go for it.
You bet. So I'm just gonna, and I'm getting used to using StreamYard here again. This is what we used for our virtuals, but it's been some time, so we'll go like this, and we'll share a quick little video. There you are, Roy.
Yep.
All right, ready for this?
Let her rip.
Ah, wow! Isn't that amazing, boy? Catherine's
Thank
working.
you, Catherine Bujol. Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing. I can't say enough about her work. It's incredible.
Yeah, for sure. Boy, that just it gave me chills watching that, and of
Yeah,
course,
it gave me chills looking at myself in that spacesuit. Oh my god.
listen, and that, of course, I mean, I
Daryl.
just, you know what? Overall, Roy and I talked about this, and we're going to try and make this, keep this lighthearted and fun, right? I mean, we're going to get into some pretty serious discussions, I'm sure, but we want that sort of lighthearted tone as well throughout these episodes all year long as well. So we're going to have some fun with this and make it a nice, relaxed setting for our guests and everybody who's going to take part. So that opening just is a little taste of what's to come. So, but thank you again to Catherine for all her hard work.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's getting some good response out there too.
Look at that. Look at that. Hey, yeah. Yeah. No, it's great seeing everybody out there tonight. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So now we're already at 26 minutes for it. We're going to try and cap this at 30, but you're still okay to stay on?
Yeah, we're gonna go. We'll go for 35 tonight because we don't want to put everybody. So yeah. So anyway, Warren and we figured, you know what, we'll throw each other some questions in regards to Space 1999, and these are some cheesy questions that I came up with, and I think Warren came up with some too. I mean, we're, again, like you said, we're just having some fun tonight.
We're just having some fun, and
break
this
the
is
ice. Yeah.
we're going to interview each other, just to see if we're even compatible. We don't even know yet.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, so listen, Roy, you throw me your, and this is we don't this is unrehearsed, guys. So we haven't shared these questions back and forth. So this is sort of an indication of how we're really going to be ad-libbing a lot of this, and again, I think that's going to play into the levity of things a little bit. So bear with us. So we haven't.
Yeah, it's a shout out to Ross, as my co-host on Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner always says. Ross always says, "Let's not talk it out."
Right. Yeah.
That should be Ross's tagline. Hey, thank you so much again, Catherine. She wrote, "My pleasure and good luck with this new adventure. Much
Oh,
apprecited."
awesome. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, she's lovely, and just incredible work again.
Yeah.
Okay, so Roy, you hit me with your first question, and we'll go back and forth. We'll
Okay.
alternate times.
Here it comes, Warren. How old were you when you first saw Space 1999?
Hmm. Well, that's real easy because I was born in '69. The series would have premiered in Canada in September of '75. So I was 5 or 4. I was 4, and I was about to be 5 in October. My
I was
birthday's
gonna
in
say,
October. Yeah.
oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
So I was 4 or 5 years old. I didn't see Breakaway first, and it was scheduled very early Saturday mornings.
Mm,
Like at a really, and as it was sort of all over the world, it was, you'd find it pop up in these weird time slots. And the CBC in Canada, I first remember, and Heather and Pam, my two sisters, were there. I think they saw it first, and they told me, "You got to tune in next week. You really like this," because I was fascinated with all things to do with the space program and the moon and things like that. And that's part of the appeal of the show, right? And we've all talked about that down through the years, right? So yeah, it was for a while. It was scheduled early Saturday mornings. Like you had to get up at 6 o'clock to see it, right? Um, and then later on throughout the run, it was scheduled opposite Star Trek, like late, sort of mid to late afternoons on Saturdays. Was always like a 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock time slot, but always because we had two channels in Canada, and they'd schedule them opposing each other. So you had to make the choice, either watch Space or Star Trek. And of course no recording or things like that. But I always preferred Space, obviously. So good question.
thanks.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. Okay, so let's see here. My first question was, why do you think the impact of Space 99 has lasted all this time, like for literally 50 years, like we discussed?
wow, that's
What do you think the big appeal is for most people, or for yourself?
well, for most people, I think there's a lot of different angles for that. I think it could be the actors. If I mean, back in the beginning of the day, I mean, well, Mission Impossible, for the Mission Impossible fans out there. And I'm not talking about Mission Impossible, the movies that are out with Tom Cruise that came out in 1995. I'm going back before that. I'm not talking about the new Mission Impossible, which was out in 1988 to 1990, which was filmed in Australia, which was on television, which was on ABC. I'm talking about Mission Impossible that was on CBS from 1966 to 1973. Martin Landau and Barbara Bain were on for the first 3 seasons. So they were very popular. The popularity that when they came over to Space 1999 was huge. So I really think that was a huge aspect for a lot of people. I think that the science aspect of it, science fiction, so to speak, Star Trek had been very huge from 66 to 69 as well. And then, and again, this is before Star Wars. Star Wars definitely had a huge impact on sci-fi as we know it today. And there's that aspect. I think the gadgets, if the comlocks, the stun guns, and then of course the Eagles. I mean, the spaceships. I mean, they were sleek, they were incredible. The special effects. I think there's a lot of that. And then depending upon what your age is, and at that time, the music. And I think for us, we've all kind of, I mean, fortunately, I'm going to kind of piggyback off the question I asked you. I was 9 years old when the show premiered. I was born in 66. And it really, I remember the lead up, the build up. It was on at 6:30 on Channel 11. And Channel 11 was one of the hubs in the US that really was advertising the heck out of it. I mean, if you were watching Channel 11, you were always getting hit with the ad about 1999, and they kept showing that scene where where the moon is going to the Earth's orbit, and then you had Nick Alan Carter, Nick Tate in the Eagle, and the focus of everything with that, and the different scenes and the explosions and everything, and it was a hook to get you in. And to your point about Star Trek, Star Trek was on before that, so I think that the audiences really had many reasons, many layers. For myself, if you're asking me directly, it's just it's just evolved over that period of time. I never stopped liking Space 1999. I mean, the moment I watched it, I was hooked. I mean, I remember playing with friends and building Legos. For folks out there that had Legos, I used to build Lego Comlocks, and I probably could put one together. I remember how I did that, but building the Eagles, and it was like this big box, and just I don't know, it just resonated. And sometimes I'll even go back and think there were really only now we will get into this later on into as we evolve into this podcast, but there are 2 seasons in 1999, but there's a lot of back and forth as far as that is concerned. But the core, though, when you think about those 24 episodes in the first season, it feels like that there were more than 24 episodes, that there were more stories. And I think that says a lot. The fact that a show that had started out like that and did this incredible arc, which is done a lot now. And I know I'm getting long-winded, and I'm sorry, Warren. You're probably afraid to ask me questions 2, 3, 4, and 5 because I'm just going on and on and on. But the point is, it's incredible, the different stories, the philosophical stories, and again, the evolution. And when I was a kid, I really did not like the Infernal Machine. When that was on, I was like, ugh. I mean, it's like, I don't want to even watch the Infernal Machine. But now as an adult, wow, what a powerful story and what meaning. So anyway, that's kind of how I'm going to answer question number 1, Warren. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. Don't worry. I know that was a very layered question, so no worries, no worries at all. But these are some of the things, and this is where we're just testing things out and having fun tonight. We're gonna be able to get into all this and counter the, go back and forth a little more in depth. We'll keep it a little shorter for tonight, but no.
After that, especially, right?
Yeah,
Sorry, folks. You got a little bit more than you asked for that.
oh, it's all in good fun. Okay, so then that's over to you. You're going to ask me one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So with that said, any memories, and I'm going to ask this because Anderson Entertainment announced today that 49 years ago in England, Dragon's Domain had premiered. And you talk about an episode that if you are and I even had posted this, I think it was on whatchamacallit, Brian Jackson's page today. You could be a huge fan of 1999. You could be a casual fan of 1999. But when you talk about an episode that is pretty much remembered by so many, just when you say Space 1999, they immediately think of the monster from Dragon's Domain. So my question to you, Warren, is in honoring the celebration of the 49th anniversary of the premiere of Dragon's Domain in the UK, what memories do you have of when you first saw Dragon's Domain for the very first time?
Well, that's a great question, and the timing, of course, is apt. And Randy, you just took the words out of my mouth. I was scarred, and because I was younger, I was 4 or 5 years old, and that episode, I mean, it was horrific on so many levels, and for that, when you consider that the show was on many levels, it was sort of marketed towards kids. It was in those time slots, those Saturday morning, but it was on every level. It was beyond adult content, but yeah, um, but it was always my favorite, and it led to my fascination with science fiction horror. And I remember on my 10th birthday in 1979, on my 10th birthday, I saw the very first Alien movie for the first time, and I was just as fascinated. It just there was something about that combination between of science fiction and horror that just really resonated with me. And but yeah, I mean, if even though I was so scared, I would look forward to it in reruns, right? And I'd
Mhm.
always check the newspaper, just check sometimes they list the episode that was coming out, the following Saturday, and I was always so anxious to see Dragon's Domain. Although I got it confused with that Death's Other Dominion a couple of times
Mm.
in the newspaper, but no, I mean it was so powerful and oh boy, and what can't you say about Johnny Garco's performance, Roy? And now especially a month after we've just met him for the first
I know.
time
Oh my
in
God.
person, he was so sweet and so amazing, and he was so touched, but in coming to London for the first time to meet the fans, it was his first time back. You know, and at a convention of that style and complexity. And he was just blown away at the sincerity and the passion of the fans remembering. And like you said, Dragon's Domain, there's you're talking about lexicon and sure, we're not a Star Wars, we're not a Star Trek, but if there's three things that the casual viewer might remember, it's going to be Dragon's Domain, it's going to be the Eagle, or it's going to be Maya, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those three things are sort of implanted or ingrained in pop culture lexicon. And yeah, the dragon though, hands down, my favorite element, aspect, episode, everything, the music, everything about it, it was just beautiful in my mind. So great question.
Yeah. Thanks.
For sure. And by the way, like, and we're just we were talking about playing around with Streamer. Do you know you can play music in the background, Roy?
I did know that. That's something that I don't do, but or have not done, I should say. But yeah, I was aware of that. Are you gonna play Albione in G minor? You are joking. Oh boy, we're gonna get
There
pumped.
it is. We probably won't do it on the regular episodes because it is a little distracting. But let's run it for a few minutes here. Um, It's nice, yeah. Since we're talking about Dragon's Domain, especially, and it's the 49th anniversary, like you said,
Yeah.
of the first airing in the UK. that's that's funny the way that came together. Okay, so I think I'm going to ask you a question next, and that would be, oh,
10 words or less.
who was your favorite Space 1999 personality that you've met over the years?
Are you referring to as
Like a celebrity, a series star.
I I can't even answer that because there's so many of them. Everybody that I have met from Space 1999, as far as individuals from the that were a regular of this, even people that I dude, I
It's a
can't
tough one.
I,
It's a
I,
tough one. Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't answer it because you know what and it's going to sound like a comp out, but everybody that I have met has been special in their own right, and it's the truth. So I can't answer that. It wouldn't be fair for me to answer that. I have never had a disappointment in anybody that I've met at a Space 1999 convention, with going back to my first convention, which was in 1999. So um, that's my default answer, but it's the truth though too. So
And I can't argue with that because and that's one other thing that we should really be thankful for because these events and conventions that we've had, of course, a little smaller scale, a little more intimate, right? They're not that big Comic-Con style super event where you're forced through an autograph line like on a conveyor belt, right?
yeah,
Everything, all your interactions, um, for both you and I and everybody, have been so personal and so sincere that it is a very hard question. I mean, I don't think I could nail it down to one name either. There's just so many. I mean, just off the top of my head, Yasko. I mean, she's
yeah,
amazing, and she just really came on board the last few years, right? But Suzanne and
mhm,
Nick and Prentice and Anton and like
yeah.
just you go on, and everybody is just lovely, just lovely.
Um, with that said, I'll ask you, what is your favorite episode of Space 1999?
Okay. Okay. It's going to tie into my next question. And again, we didn't rehearse this, so it's funny. My favorite episode,
Yep.
Dragon's Domain.
Okay.
Easy, easy. Yep, yep. That's boy. Yeah, I it's just everything about it. If I had to name a close second, probably Another Time, Another Place.
Okay.
Um, very, very, yeah, that one just really, and I think because it brings up the whole question of and again, we're going to have lots of time to get into this, but I really love Another Time, Another Place, just because of the what if scenario, right? And different universes, different timelines, which is very much all the rage nowadays, right? With big budget Marvel movies and everything is multiverses and
Well, and
I
I think the one thing I and it's another aspect of the series that I really loved in the first series. I have to say, I have to qualify it with saying the first series. And I'm going to put this disclaimer out, folks. I do enjoy the second season episodes. I do. There's probably more first season episodes that I enjoy than second season, but there's things about the second series that I do enjoy, and I'm not going to, negate that. But if I had to give a preferences to the two series or the two seasons, as it's referred to as series, I would definitely go hands down series one, just because I mean, it just, the embodiment of Space 1999 to me is just that. But again, I don't want to cause a debate or anything. But with that said, I love the fact with series one, those episodes, they were so thought provoking. And I'm tying into what you just said too, Warren, just kind of like bridging that and adding to it. They didn't necessarily give you an answer. And how brilliant is that? I mean, it's left open ended. You don't have the answers. I mean, the one that immediately comes to mind is Force of Life. It's like, why did that happen? And we don't know. And you know what? It's okay that we don't know. That adds to the mystery of the episode, the brilliance of it, the writing. I mean, again, we're going to get into all this when we talk about the different episodes, but we're just kind of like giving you an idea of things we're going to kind of delve into. But it's and Another Time, Another Place, I mean, it's along the same lines of that. It's, right at the end, right when they're having the discussion, it's like, Alan says, I wonder if the others made it, if they survived. And then the comment comes up, did they ever really exist? And then Helena looks at the flowers that she's holding, and then there's that cut of Victor just kind of looking out. It was like an insert. I don't know. It just seemed misplaced, but it's just that, again, it's very thought provoking. We don't know. We don't know why all this happened, but it did in that reality. Yeah.
You're absolutely right, and of course, boy, do we have comments and people showing up. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah. But yeah, what I was going to say is, so many movies and TV shows suffer from the old writing trope where the viewer gets sort of a clue as to what's happening, right? Whereas the characters don't. And I feel that's lazy writing, right? But where Space really kept you as the viewer in suspense just as much as the characters were in some cases. And I really, really like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just part of the appeal. But
yeah. Okay, so then that was, I was going to lead into my next question. So for you now, I have sort of a two-part question.
and
again, and you touched on this earlier, we're going to get into all this and all the minutia, all these different episodes of even season one versus season two, and we're going to remain fair in as much as we can, but we might drift from time to time on certain things. I mean, everybody's going to have a least favorite episode, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just personal opinion. So my question, Roy, is what was your least favorite episode of year one and your favorite episode of year two?
My least
Just
of season one and my favorite of year two. Oh
yeah,
boy.
just to mix it up a bit.
Um. Okay, I'm going through the production order here in my mind, which is really scary. Um, my least favorite episode of year one is going to have to be Ring Around the Moon. I just am not a huge fan of that episode. And what bugs the heck out of me about that is Black Sun, which was episode number 3, was amazing. I mean, it was one of my favorites of the first season, which is not your question. But then there's Ring Around the Moon. I think that there were lapses in the writing. I don't know. I'm not. I thought the music was unique. I mean, it was what was it? Is it Alan Willis? I'm trying to remember.
Alan Willis was the music
Yeah, he was.
coordinator on that.
I mean, he was once and done. He didn't, but it was unique. If you have the soundtracks, you know, it's great. It's great music to hear. Um, I just some of the dialogue was hurting, and it was just it felt slapped together. It wasn't. It just it it could have been it could have been a tighter episode. I'll just say that. So that thinking about it and pondering that, I would probably say Ring Around the Moon. Now, the interesting thing is, if you had asked me that question when I was a kid, I probably, like I was going to say, I probably would have told you the Infernal Machine because I was bored by it. But as an adult, no way. I mean, the Infernal Machine is very thought provoking. The whole idea about the companion, about, the travelers, and the moral of it, of the story, and everything that it represents. And it's just, again, it's delving deep. So that's that. Favorite year two episodes. Um, I actually have a few, but to say what my absolute favorite is, my goodness, that's a tough one. It's probably somewhere between the Metamorph, Journey to Where, the Immunity Syndrome. Um, if I had to pick one of those three, I probably would go with Journey to Where. I think that out of those three episodes, I just think that it deals with time travel. It deals with them, the Alphans, getting back on Earth, but it's not the Earth of the time that they're from. It's dealing with the whole aspect of knowing that Earth has pretty much been desecrated, the Earth that that we knew of that time. Because interesting enough, they're dealing with the whole aspect of, they left the moon broke out of the Earth's orbit in 1999, but they've been traveling through space, and the time factor and that has taken place because they are in space. And again, this is something we can talk about in later episodes, because in Bringers of Wonder, Maya and Koenig, and Helena are discussing this whole thing, that Koenig says if the Earthlings or their friends from Earth are really from Earth, they should be hundreds of years older than they appear, because of the whole theory, if you're traveling in space, beyond the speed of light, I believe. There's a scientific aspect of it, and I'm sure the folks out there know what that is. But anyway, the point is that on the moon, time is relative, but if you were to venture back to Earth, the time that has gone by would be more like generations, and that's a whole nother discussion for another time. So the point is, I think that yeah, I'm gonna go with Journey to Where. That's my final answer.
And that's okay. No, interesting. And these are things that you and I haven't even talked about all the years we've known each other, right? So it's just helping us to get to know some things about each other as well.
Yeah. Thank you,
Um,
Martin.
the connections with the Earth there were you were describing during the Where, very similar to Another Time, Another Place, where they go and things are not what they remembered it to be,
Mhm.
and desolate, and things like that. Um, but yeah, no, I I think, and it's Colleen. I think had just made the blanket statement. My favorite episodes as a kid are quite different from my faves as an adult. And I'll also add on to that, Colleen, that and I don't have a problem saying this because we're going to get into this. We're going to talk about it. It's all opinion, but
Yep.
as a kid, I actually preferred year two.
Mm.
And because it was that it was flashy, it was more exciting, it was more action packed. As an adult, I prefer year one.
And also, David. Hi, David. Good to see you out there. I hope you're doing,
Oh, David's out there. Hey, how's
thanks
it
for
going?
joining us. David, that is actually a favorite episode of mine too. My biggest, and I'm backtracking a little bit. My biggest regret about the Seance Spectre is that it wasn't a two-part episode. There is so much crammed into that episode. And Peter Medic, who was the director of Seance Spectre, also directed Space Warp. His camera angles in that episode are fantastic. If you haven't had the opportunity to watch that recently, or if you haven't noticed when you have watched it, for the folks out there, check it out sometime. I mean, right from the onset, I mean, the way, it's being photographed in the Eagle cockpit, he's doing different angles. He's doing different angles in various areas of Alpha. It's just, and when, the Eagle's coming back, when they're leaving Torah, and they get into the Eagle to make sure that John is okay after, he's got oxygen deprivation. I mean, it's just one shot after another, and it is just fast moving. A lot of folks will say that this is almost like a repeat of Collision Course on some levels, which obviously it's, Alan even says, we were back to the old whatchamacallit of trying to get this moon to go in the direction we want it to go. And it's true. But it's just that it's nonstop, and it's really, really good. So I agree with you, but I go with Journey to Where. But anyway, Shari was right. She laughed when I said we were going to be 30 minutes on this. She's watching me right now. So with that said, I am going to ask you, Warren, what are your favorite pieces of equipment from the series? Or a piece of equipment. What is your favorite piece of equipment from Space 1999?
Okay. I think I know where you're going with that, and I think I can easily sum up that. For me, it was the entirety of the interior of Moonbase Alpha. It was the sets.
Okay.
It was being 5 years old, and those sets to this day are one aspect that I will argue anybody till I'm blue in the face that they hold up against science fiction productions by by far better. Just in the overall look and aesthetic and design of those corridors, those hallways, those living quarters. Of course, main mission. Um, like kudos to Keith Wilson, because it in my mind as a 5-year-old, and that's one thing that hasn't changed as I've grown older, is that I believe those sets and interiors are some of the best that have ever been commissioned and presented in a movie or television series.
Yeah. Yeah. I really believed during the first series they were on a moon base. I
Yeah.
really did. Now, part of what kind of blew the illusion for me was that, for the folks out there that have the Making of Space 1999 by Tim Held, in that book, there is a diagram, a layout of the entire series 2 set design. So they had standing sets for everything established, just because they were on such a quick turnaround as far as doing the episodes. So when I'm watching the episode and I'm watching where they are in the different corridors, in my mind, the illusion's broken, because I'm thinking, okay, I know where this is and where that is. They're not really, they're shooting in various corridors or doing different angles, and they're putting different, set pieces on, or designs. And I'm thinking, okay, it's just, but for series 1, and the interesting thing is it was main mission. And I believe this is, if I remember correctly, David Hirsch, and David Hirsch will be joining us on Sunday to give a shout out to David. If I remember correctly, it was main mission was the standing set that was never was always there, and also the Eagle. However, with the Eagle, they did. I believe they moved it around a little bit, if I remember correctly. But again, we can, ask David when he comes on with us and talk about that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, great answer to that, Warren. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And if I could just, I'm gonna digress just a moment to the previous question, and I just want to say that in my mind, we're talking about year one versus year two, and year two, it's not to say that I don't feel year two served its purpose. I mean, it did do what it was designed to do, and my statement that as a kid I was more drawn to year two is proof positive of that, because if they would have commissioned another series, under the same concept or style of year one, I think it would have been a disaster, right? I mean, obviously something didn't work. They needed to make those changes, and it did do what it was intended to do. It was intended to maybe bring in a younger audience, right? And
Mhm.
and 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 help with viewership that way. And it's interesting. Roy and I talked earlier today that as we go through these episodes, we're maybe going to have a special bridge episode between year one and year two.
Yeah.
And I actually have an interesting theory that I'm going to maybe talk about then, and in regards to multiverses, and I sort of have this theory that I'm going to present that actually goes back to UFO and the ties and connections to UFO, about maybe creating a multiverse, and that actually um, uh, year two wasn't necessarily a sequel to year one, but a multiverse. So yeah, that's it's wild, it's out there, but
One thing I have to piggyback off of the comment you just made, and it's interesting that you made that comment, but I was 9 going into 10 when I watched year one, and I very much enjoyed year one. And year two, I enjoyed as a 10-year-old as well too. So for me, the age, it didn't matter in regards to, you know what I mean, having an influence.
Mhm.
I think that the one thing that I probably as a child would remember is that it just seemed a little bit more serious, I think is what I was picking up on. But it didn't take away, it didn't make me enjoy the first season less than the second. If I've heard though what a lot of people have said, what you said, that if they watch the second series first, then were introduced to the first season, a lot of them pretty much favored the
Prefers the
second
second.
season
Prefer the
over the
second.
first season. And again, I'm not trying to make this about one over the other, because I mean, it's not, that's not the intent. And it's just more of an observation. But I can say for me personally, though, age didn't matter for that, because if anything, and and again, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but it was insulting me as a 10-year-old. Well, I heard this later on when I was not 10, but as a 10-year-old, I realized who was missing from Command Center that was, originally a main mission. It was like, where are these people? So it was like, I did miss those people. I miss seeing some of those familiar faces. And it was, I think that, but that's, again, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
I
But
think
yeah,
it's just that you almost have to mention it though, because it's part of the history of the show. I mean, it is what it is. You can't change the history books, right? I mean, it what happened happened. But yeah, I really felt Alpha was a functioning moon base in the first season. I really, really believed it. And it just seems so vast, especially when you had an area like the nuclear generating area. I mean, you
oh,
mentioned Keith Wilson before. I mean, incredible. I mean, it felt so real, so larger than life, so functional. And it's just another aspect of the show that, that resonates. But anyway, not to go down a rabbit hole. Um,
no,
any more questions
absolutely.
or digressing?
Um, whose turn was it here?
I know we've gone
Um,
back and forth.
oh, I think it's my turn to ask
Yeah,
my the fourth question, right?
and I'll
Thanks
try to
for
answer it in like 10 words or less.
it's okay. It's an easy one. What was your most memorable convention moment?
Oh, geez. Again, that's a tough one. Oh my god. Um, wow. It's a good question, but there's so many of them, because I mean, and I have to thank Lou Place, because Lou really just introduced me to the convention world. Back in I've known Lou since 1988, 1980. I'm sorry, 1987. We started speaking. So, and there's an example of it's not your question, but it's just an example of a long term friendship. I've been friends with Lou Place, and I know there's folks out there who have been friends longer than that. But when I think back, I've known him and been friends with him for 37 years. That is crazy, but it's because of Space 1999. And I think going to the Breakaway convention in 99, because that was amazing. That was probably, I mean, there's been a lot of stuff. I mean, definitely, done a lot of, we've done our stuff that we did. I did the stuff with Gordon and Todd. We did in 17, we did it in 19. You and I first met in 2012, and then it was going to London in 14. And then going back before that, I mean, the first convention,
Breakaway is my biggest regret that I didn't make it.
that convention was amazing. And you talk about the set that was there. I mean, you had we're talking about main mission and everything, and it was just incredible. And not having met anybody as far as stars from the show or anything of that nature before, and having that experience, it was it was just mind-blowing. It's and I'm going into a Star Trek mode here, so forgive me, folks, but I'm a huge classic Star Trek fan. So if you're a huge Star Trek fan from the original series, and I'm going to give James Cawley a plug here because he deserves it, and you go to Ticonderoga, New York, and you go to the original Star Trek series sets for the very first time, there is nothing like seeing that for the very first time. It is mind blowing. It just blows you away, and it's incredible. So I'm just going to put that out there. But in regards to that, going to the Breakaway convention in 99 had that same type of effect on me, because I had never been to California before. And I went out there, and, Lou and I were roommates, and just meeting the different people and everything, and just knowing the history. Starlog magazine, I always love to give Starlog a plug. I mean, back from 1978 with, the very first convention, and just knowing all the history that took place with the conventions and the fans, and just being like, I'll use the term, I was like a virgin, really, to it from a convention standpoint. I'd been to Trek conventions, but for 1999, it was just something that was incredibly special. And yeah, so sorry for the long-winded answer, but
no, and that's okay. And listen, I'm gonna piggyback off that and come back to Lou Place for a second. So you first met Lou in the late 80s.
Yeah.
I first met Lou at my first convention in 95, a mini sort of a Relaxicon event in Portland, Oregon, where we met Barry Morris.
Yeah.
It was the first time I met Rosie,
Yeah.
Sandra Sprecher,
Yeah.
Bob Wood and I drove from Calgary. And but funnily enough, so you and I, though, so you had met Lou previously. I met him in 95, but you and I didn't meet till 2012, right? And that's just funny, the way these little ties that bind us all together are always constantly in flux, in motion, crossing paths, and it's really an awesome community.
It really, really is. And I'm seeing a lot of different comments coming in, and I'm trying to flash them on the screen. Dave, thanks for joining us. I mean, he said, I was 8 years old and watched the series when it premiered in 75, although I enjoyed year 2. I have always preferred year 1. Barry Gray's music was amazing. David is commenting about the 2001 was his first con, and he said, having Barry Morse come up to me and say, hi, I'm Barry Morse. I thought, I was, no kidding, lots of laughs. Yeah, it's stuff like that. I mean, it's just amazing. Martin said a good con experience was seeing the Eagles set at the London Heathrow con. Want to say hi to Missy Pumpkin Kitty out there. Hey, 1999 was an awesome con. Yeah, it really was. So it's Nancy's out there. Nancy, Calgary 2023 was my first convention, first sci-fi convention overall. In fact, yeah, it's
all the comments, guys, rolling in, and thanks so
Yeah,
much.
we appreciate it, and I hope you're enjoying. Colleen, Breakaway was my first
Yeah,
con.
there you go. There you go. Yeah, yeah.
So I'm just trying to make sure I'm capturing everybody. Rick said Space 99, in fact, very strong in our childhood memories. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that says it all. Let me see, Warren. I think I have one more question for you.
Yeah. Throw me question number 5.
What was your favorite? Who is your favorite character from the series?
Oh, you know what? I was almost going to ask you the same one, but I decided to ask you who was your favorite celebrity that you met. But favorite character, well, growing up, I mean, yeah, I mean, everybody wanted to be like I will say it was probably John Koenig, for sure, and for a, a sort of an unusual reason, but Martin Landau, um, 50 years ago looked a lot like my dad,
Okay.
and there was an uncanny resemblance there. So I always, in watching the show, I always looked up to Koenig, of course, just because of that resemblance. So
Gotcha.
so yeah, that's I mean, but there again, it's a hard question to nail down just one, right? Because they were all so good, they were all written so well, and the actors performed so well. It's really hard. I mean, Barry Morse we've mentioned a couple times. Goodness, but it's interesting as well. Getting older, I will say one thing, we've touched on this a couple times. Getting older and meeting some of the celebrities like Yasko, who maybe wasn't a favorite back in the day, but boy, you after meeting Yasko, you sure go back and it gives you different pause to look at her scenes and her episodes, doesn't it?
Oh my God, yeah. And
Right,
yeah,
like she's
Yasko is
just so lovely.
one of the nicest people you can meet, and as our as is everyone that we've met throughout the convention circuit. But yeah, and I have to thank my friend Marianne for that, because if it wasn't for her, that the way that whole thing came about, and I'll talk about that another time. But it's just that it was wonderful the way she had never done a Space 1999 convention. She wasn't even aware of it, so it really came together with that. Anyway, as we are going into overtime here,
Yep.
folks, Warren's last question.
You bet, you bet. Okay, so here it is. This is a big one, and okay, I put a lot of thought into this, Roy.
Oh boy,
Um, who do you prefer? Okay, you ready?
no,
Okay, all right, good. All right, here it is. Who do you prefer co-hosting with, me or Ross?
that's not a fair question. Get out of here. That's throw that out. I'll answer it this way. In regards to Space 1999 U, because if I was talking about Space 1999 with Ross, I would be hosting this by myself, because
He would have
Ross
tuned out. He would have tuned out.
he would have turned, yeah, he would have been gone. He would have been gone like
No, listen, I sort of said that tongue in cheek because like what you've done with that show and with Ross, you guys should be very proud. And I have as a co-host, I have big shoes to fill because Ross is wonderful. He really is. And I just hope I can play off you as well as the two of you do.
you are in sales, aren't you? I gotta remember that.
It was all unscripted.
That was pretty good. That was sales 10. Was that sales 102 or 103? You're kind of working up the ladder there, aren't you? I appreciate the commentary though. No, I'm just kidding. Just busting. No,
No,
this
and I really mean that. I mean, your show is very special, and it was launched at a time when things like this were yeah, they weren't uncommon, but now of course they're they're more common than not. Certainly, all things virtual, but you started in a time where there was a lot of gray area, there were a lot of unknowns, and you traversed through all that, and especially during the pandemic, and you guys have stuck with it 4 or 5 years now, 4 or 5 years now, and yeah, I mean your viewership, your loyal fans, it's a true testament to what you guys have done together as a team there.
Thanks. Yeah, actually we were the show is at 4.5 years right now, because it started April. I think it was April. Well, everybody knows me, date man. April 3rd of 2020. So yeah, it's been 4.5 years. It's kind of crazy. But I appreciate the commentary. No, we're gonna have fun with this. This is gonna be good. I think we definitely got the fun rapport going on here. We're not taking it too seriously, but we are taking it seriously, and definitely like including the audience. Love having. I mean, that's a big part of it, and it's just all fan related. We're just two big fans of the show, and we're happy to be doing this. And with that said, I want to put a shout out to Ben Page, who is really like our producer, and very excited about working with Ben with doing this. Ben has been a supporter of the show, Roy's Tie Dye Sci-Fi Corner, as far as doing that, and just tuning in and everything. So I'm really excited that he's going to be doing this with us as well too. And
Absolutely. Ben and Catherine both, and that's one thing. If we didn't sort of make it known up until this point, where I mean, we're going to have some guests on, and like it said in the credits, there, creatives, personalities, collectors, but primarily a lot of fans, a lot of you. We really want to have on. If you have a favorite episode that you'd like to come on and discuss, we've got 48 slots open at this point. So we're going to be putting the word out to have some of you on and really make this a fun interactive experience at the same time.
No, absolutely. Ryzen.
And
Thanks for the compliment.
I saw that name, and I just want to point out that what I really want is Missy Pumpkin Kitty. I want to see Maya turn into Missy Pumpkin Kitty. I'd like to know what that looks like. That is a very unique name. But thank you for joining us.
Yes, and thank you for the compliment too. I appreciate it. She said episode discussion, bring them on. Yeah, we're going to. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And she said, heck no to you, Warren. And
okay, good. I deserve that. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Roy, do you have anything else that you can think of?
No. I think we're pretty much good to go. I really appreciate everybody tuning in, and it's been fun. And incidentally, speaking of the Metamorph, I actually found, folks, my original cassette tape back when I taped it back in October. Actually, it was September, I think 28th of 1976, when it was on Channel 11 WPIX. This was original recording, and I was like 10 years old. So that was kind of cool to find. But yeah, and I just want to give a shout out to my mom. My mom is progressing, and thanks for the folks who've reached out to me. I really appreciate it. And she's in the rehab, but I just want to say, love you, Mom. If you're still up and watching, because it is kind of late. Anyway, yeah. So when are we going to be back, Aaron? When are we going to be televising again?
Well, we're going to be back Sunday, and just on that note, I'd like to say all the best to your mom as well, Roy. Please give my best regards, and I'd like to just say a quick word, if I could, to a very close personal friend of mine, Tim Urton. Got some very bad news today, and I just would like him to know that he's very much in my thoughts today, and during this rough time. And he's not the biggest 1999 fan, but he's been a supporter of everything we've done on the pages, and he's a very dear friend. So. Yeah, that's going out to Tim. And let's see here. Oh yeah, I think comments still rolling in. So we want to wrap up, but you guys are just amazing.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. So yeah, we will be doing our live show. It will be 4 o'clock Eastern time, and that will be this coming Sunday, which is going to be, what's the date?
October 27th.
October 27th. So just mark your calendars, and you'll be able to watch it either on Roy's Tie Dye Sci-Fi Corner. You can go to Space 1999, obviously 50th anniversary. Is also more so if you're on YouTube, you can catch it there as well.
Yeah, and yeah, please again subscribe to the new YouTube channel. We just renamed it Space 1999 this episode. I think the podcast is still on there, but Space 1999 this episode. And one of the other nice things I'm going to do is over the next coming weeks is all of those Martin Landau episodes that I converted from those old U-matic formats. I'm going to start posting those on the YouTube channel as well, just so everybody can enjoy them. And that was such an adventure and looking after all that over the last year, I think we should share some of that and as well. It's a perfect place for him. So
That'll
it's
be
all
very cool.
yeah, you bet. Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick. Much appreciated.
Yep. And to everybody out there.
All right, everyone. So with that said, even though it's Space 1999, I always like to say, live long and prosper.
We got to come up with our own tagline or our own catchphrase, Roy. But we'll do that. That'll suffice for tonight, of course.
For tonight's pilot.
Live long and prosper. Thanks to everybody out there.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.